Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football, taking a deeper dive into this USC defense and their performance against San Jose Week 0. And I mean, this is a group that we jumped on late Saturday night and talked about what we saw. And going back and watching the film again, like I kind of agree with those takes. This is a group that the talent level is much better than you saw in 2022. Bigger, stronger, faster. That being said, there are still some problems that they need to clean up. And I think USC fans would certainly agree. What they did week 0, they're not going to win a national championship with. I mean, you had some blown assignments, not great gap integrity, got to have stuff you can work on. That being said, the ceiling for this group, I had some people text me and say, oh, this USC defense, it's trash again. It's not. Like the talent-wise, this defense can be a good group. We're going to get into some players that we thought really flashed, some players that you need a little bit more from. Now, before we do, again, just want to say thank you to you guys, especially the USC fans. It's no secret this has been a program that we've loved to talk about heading into 2023. Super high ceiling, but most importantly, like the support from you guys, the USC fans. Can't thank you guys enough. So one, if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. But more importantly, would love to hear your guys' takes in the comment section, players that stood out, units that stood out. Again, can't thank you guys enough for rocking with the boys. Dale, I'm going to kick this one off to you. Overall takes on this USC defense, and then we'll dive into certain position groups and players.
I mean, what stood out to me is I think now you saw, frankly, from the front seven, you saw probably 3 to 4 really good linebackers playing football, and you saw two waves of defensive linemen they're going to be able to throw at teams and who are going to go play winning ball. Because like last year, frankly, there was some talent on that USC defense for sure, but not enough of it. And it was very not deep. And you didn't have 7 guys in the front 7 who are all going to like really do their job at a very high level. That to me is the big difference now in what you have is you look like you have way more than 7 now who are going to play at a high level when their name's called on.
Another thing that like I think we talked a little bit about Saturday night, but like it stood out even more. Like the amount of players they played, especially in that front 7, that was absolutely insane. You saw the depth on full display. Now, yes, you saw this group probably not play as together as they probably should have. That being said, like you take a look, you see it on the roster. I mean, most of these guys are transfer players or true freshmen that are playing. It makes sense that they didn't play as a unit as well as you would like week 0. It's a lot of new faces.
But that frankly, that puts the target kind of on Alex Grinch like this.
100%.
And last year, yeah, you could have made an excuse. Like when they were banged up, you were thin and you didn't have the guys necessarily to do it. There's really no excuse for this defense to not play really good. And frankly, if they don't, I think that falls squarely on Alex Grinch's shoulders. And that'll be something Lincoln Riley, I'm sure, is going to go evaluate. Because, again, you just look, this defense is too talented to play that poorly in my mind.
100%. If you get to week 8, week 10, and you still see like the same problems, it's not a personnel, it's not a talent problem anymore. Now it's a coaching problem. Though, let's get into the certain units that we thought really stood out. Now, I want to start up front. Like, again, deep, talented. This defensive line, I thought really got after it. Now, in the pass rush, like you got to kind of maintain your pass rush lanes a little bit better. Cordero beat you with his legs probably too many times. That being said, you saw this group win a lot of their one-on-ones. The physicality in terms of moving bodies, certainly there. I'll tee you up, though. What player do you kind of stood out to you the most here?
I mean, I think to me it was Keon Bars. And he's a guy, frankly, who coming in I wasn't as familiar with as someone like a Bear Alexander, for example, or an Anthony Lucas, 2 guys who, again, you saw at their previous schools and as very young players. Like they had the talent, they had that game. And frankly, they both played awesome. But Keon Bars was a guy to me, like a guy maybe I wasn't expecting as much of, but played a style of defense that I don't think we've seen at USC in a little while. A guy who was consistently resetting the line of scrimmage. Now, again, we're going to have to see that against other teams like a Utah and an Oregon who are better up front. But that's something to me, like USC, you look, guys like Jack Sullivan, I mean, he's a penetrator. He was in the backfield all game. But to me, Keon Bars now is going to have a big role in this unit as being that guy who, when they go play Utah or someone who wants to go run the ball, it's like I'll be looking for him to stand tall and do his thing and reset the line of scrimmage and let these linebackers go to work.
See, I don't sleep on Keon Bars because I follow him on Instagram, and he is a freak in the weight room, like an absolute dog. So I knew him. I liked his game from Arizona. I'm with you. Like Jack Sullivan, Bear Alexander, Keon Bars, They look great. I thought Elijah Hughes, the true freshman, played some good ball at times.
And it was huge seeing them get in the backfield more. Like you didn't see that necessarily from the D tackles last year, but guys, all three of them, especially, and yeah, even Elijah Hughes, like guys getting in the backfield, and they do need tackle a little better. That was one thing.
Yep.
Like that defensive line, probably they made a lot of plays. They could have made a lot more if they just tackled better. But that to me was a huge thing because you want your defensive line playing that type of ball.
Okay, so before we move on, I do just need to shout out the USC fans who were grilling me a little bit for my lack of Jamil Muhammad hype. And I would get up here and talk about the edge rushers and shout out Anthony Lucas. Shout out, I mean, I was a big Corey Foreman guy. We didn't see too much of him. And they're like, y'all are sleeping on Jamil Muhammad, and you're absolutely right. I thought he might have been the best guy up front for USC. They asked him to do a lot of different things. He did a lot of those things at a high level. Jamil Muhammad going to be a force, I think, for USC on the defensive side of the ball.
And that's why you're looking, I think, frankly, not to cut you off, but like to see this defensive line play as a unit a little more where you saw everybody kind of rushing upfield. I think everyone was excited. They wanted to get their sacks. But frankly, like you have edge guys, probably 4 of them, who are going to win a lot of reps. You probably throw Romello Hayden, who played very good football too yesterday. So you have edge guys who are going to beat tackles very consistently, I think. Now, those defensive tackles, they just need to go collapse pockets a little more rather than try and get on the outside shoulder and rush upfield because, frankly, that's the only thing that San Jose had to beat this USC. You have to, out of the pocket.
Cordero he made it happen. Like that was a really good performance he played. Now, that being said, like you're going to see Bo Nix and Michael Penix and Cam Rising, guys who can do that kind of thing too. So, like you are winning your ones. And in a phone booth, you evaluate each guy like kind of in a single box. You're like, oh my God, this defensive line is dominating. But as a group, I don't think they necessarily played together as well as they could have. So the linebacker core, that's partially the problem too. Like you had some spies, and Lincoln Riley said in the presser, like, yeah, we were spying them. We just had some guys get lost. Like 3rd and 22, Mason Cobb's in on the spy, gets lost in traffic. You're in man coverage. You give up the 22-yard 3rd down conversion. That stuff's inexcusable. You have to get off the field when you're facing a 3rd and 22. You'll clean that stuff up, Dill. Talking about the linebacker play, I want to start with Eric Gentry. He played limited stats, but, man, when he was on the field, I thought he was the best linebacker USC had on Saturday night.
And, frankly, in that type of game where it was very spread out, he did look more comfortable playing that than Mason Cobb or Tackett Curtis, both the guys who, again, didn't – I don't think they're quite as athletic as Eric Gentry, which is kind of evident on the field. And they were chasing quarterbacks and running backs around a lot. But it didn't feel like they had that feel. What stood out to me for Eric Gentry is just a guy who knows how to play that spiral. It felt like he knew when he had to go attack the quarterback and try to make play that way. When he had to go across the field and play a little more lateral. He just he had that role a little better. And frankly, I thought Mason Cobb and Tackett Curtis, when the ball was played a little bit more inside, that's where those two shined. And I am wondering if you'll see this unit play a little bit more situationally, play all 3 of these guys, depending on who they're playing, what the down and distance is and all.
Or like who you're playing. Like when you're playing Oregon or Utah, who kind of want to run the football, I mean, you're probably going to play a lot more Tackett Curtis, Mason Cobb. When you're playing Washington, who wants to spread you out, like Eric Gentry's probably your best bet. Eric Gentry he was a guy that I was critical on in the offseason because and it wasn't because I think he's a bad player. It's more like I think he can be an elite linebacker. You saw glimpses of it. Man, if he kind of keeps making those progressions, like he's proven me wrong. Not proven me wrong because he's a guy that I like. I just want him to kind of put it on the field. I thought he did a really good job. Mason Cobb, he's going to be really solid. Like you can kind of tell he's like playing with his hair on fire, flies around the field. Yes, he blew some assignments. I get that, but I'm willing to let it go.
I wonder if there was an element of like, these coaches just telling them, all right, we need to play a little different style. We need to attack teams a little more. And him and Curtis especially just kind of took that to like a little bit over, if you will. And because again, it's like not scraping over blocks and both firing into the same gap. I feel
that was Tackett Curtis, to be honest. And I'll give him some leeway because again, he's a guy that if you listen to me all summer, like super excited for Tackett Curtis. He's gonna be a phenomenal linebacker. You got a little reminder at certain times on Saturday night, he is a true freshman. And like there were times where he was like kind of reckless abandons, firing down, missing gaps, and giving up big plays. They cleaned that stuff up. Like this is a really good linebacker group. Still,
again, what I really like is I think you have guys who complement each other. I mean,
yes, I agree with that 100%.
I don't expect to see any of that from Mason Cobb, just what he did at Oklahoma State. I mean, so solid, especially when it came to in the box. Like, that's what you're looking for. And frankly, that's what Eric Gentry struggled with at times. So I think you have guys who kind of fit what they're doing. I think they complement each other. And now will be, again, not to just go after these coaches, but it's can these coaches use these guys and put them in these positions to be successful? Because I think you have the personnel at that linebacker room to handle a lot of different schemes, perhaps.
Yeah, no, I actually really do agree with that. And that's something that's hard in the Pac-12 because you see a lot of different things. So, you know what I mean? You're seeing the Washington spread you out and you're seeing the Utah grind you down. You got to have personnel to deal with all of that. The cornerback room, I thought was really sharp. I mean, like, yes, they got beat. They blew coverage. Okay, like, I get that. That's unacceptable. Like, end of half, you can't give up 7 there. That being said, like, when they were asked to play in man coverage, like, Damani Jackson looked really good. I thought Sierra Wright looked really good. Yes, Nick Nash got his. There were some really good throws and some really good catches that at a certain point, you just got to say, like, yeah, that's good on good, and they won. That being said, Damani Jackson, the light bulb starting to flicker a little bit, and we said, if that light bulb lights up, I really do think you're looking at an all Pac-12 caliber cornerback.
Yeah, I'm sure USC fans have to be stoked about that. I mean, obviously, joining that USC class when they were in all that turmoil and then Lincoln Riley came in, I mean, he was that headliner. He was the guy they needed to keep home. So I'm sure seeing him go out and again, play really good football, being able to stay with guys and be sticky, get his hands on a couple balls, that was huge. And again, Sierra, right, we kind of knew. I mean, this guy can play. So you're looking especially at this boundary positioning. You could probably throw Christian Roland Wallace.
Same. I think you got to play more.
Really good. So I think you have 3 guys who are all very able to play man coverage. And you just look, this boundary corner room should be really, really good, I think.
And then the safety room, I'm like conflicted. Like Kalen Bullock's like he's a highlight reel. Like he's so good sometimes, and you're like, wow, that dude is like a first round caliber. And for my NFL draft stuff, like I have him as like a player to watch in terms of truly, truly special making plays. He's got to tackle better. Like you have to be able to tackle. Like, there were times when that big run, like he just took a bad angle and got beat, and he's not. I don't know if it's a willingness or it's just like he's got to put on some weight, but he's a phenomenal safety that I think you just if you kind of make him a better tackler, you're looking at one of the best safeties in the country. The cornerback group I think is better than the safety group, but I don't think the safety group is horrible either.
Yeah, and that'll be a thing. Again, just to like kind of round this defense out, personnel, I really have no question anymore.
It's straight up there.
Alex Grinch, like, now you got to go make your money. You got to do something. And frankly, that defensive performance, all in all, I can't imagine is acceptable to Lincoln Riley and any of these USC fans because, like, especially, it's just so frustrating to see that much talent in that many really, like, just blatantly blown plays.
So that's what I want to end on. Like, I saw a few comments after Saturday night saying like this is just like sunshine and rainbows USC kind of like it's for one not a USC fan. I do like talking about this team. I'm high on this team. Like, it's a fun team to talk about. I'm not going to sit there and say, like, you can win a national championship with that level of defense that they played Saturday night. I think a lot of USC fans would agree with that. That being said, when you do watch the game, this is a talented group that has the capability to be a defense that can win a national championship. Now, can you make those steps week 0, week 1 against Nevada, clean some stuff up, get into conference play? It's got to come together. And if it does, like, this is a defense that if it comes together, it's going to be a solid group.
You can play that good up front. You should be able to be a defense that's putting like a lot of pressure on teams, like forcing offense on the back foot. They just gotta do it.
Yep. And then we'll hop on, continue to monitor this defense, have some steps that got to be taken. Again, USC fans, appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Can't thank you guys enough for rocking with us, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.